Mark Field, who is now joining us from Melbourne, Australia. And today's webinar regarding the United Kingdom market is organized by Litfood and the Embassy of the Republic of Lithuania to the United Kingdom. I am Irma Šlaičiūnaitė Černiauskienė, head of the export promotion and development team. And before the start, I will give small guidance in terms of technical issues. Kindly be informed that our webinar is recorded. And if you have any questions for our dear speaker, please do not hesitate to ask by clicking the icon, raise your hand, and kindly inquire in English. So the United Kingdom is particularly the most important and one of the priority markets for the Lithuanian food and beverage industry, which is one of the top 5 export markets. And the volume of Lithuanian agricultural and food products exported to the United Kingdom grows significantly yearly. So if you're looking to achieve strategic growth in the United Kingdom food and drink sector, today's webinar is just for you. A UK-based Prof Consultant Group will support all of us during the topic, what does it take to win with food and drink exports into UK grocery retail? And let me introduce our speaker, Mr. Mark Field and the Prof Consulting Group. So the group is an award-winning food and grocery consultancy with offices in Melbourne, Australia and Somerset, United Kingdom, founded in 2019 by the CEO, Mark Field. And after a career spearheading the 9 billion private label brand in Australia for Coles supermarkets, the vision of the group is to help clients win fast through the aligning of product use PS, retailer strategies, and customers' needs to access new markets. Dear Mark, welcome to our virtual stage.
Emma, thank you very much. Really looking forward to getting a chance to talk to the companies on the call this evening, and delighted to have the opportunity for sure. Thank you for the very kind introduction. I think what I would say to everyone that's on the webinar, how can I sit here today and talk to you about the UK market, is because I think I've been very fortunate through my career, and I've worked for 25 years in international food manufacturing based out of the UK, supplying the major retailers and the likes of McDonald's. And then the second part of my career, I've had nearly 10 years in Australia working for the largest private label brand in that market and the second largest supermarket. So I've been very fortunate that I've seen it from both sides. And I like to think that I'm now a team of food consultants that are food focused first, a consultant second, rather than consultants first trying to learn about the food sector. So I've been very fortunate the number of companies I've engaged with and have presented to me. And I think using those insights to help you prepare for your strategy and your strategic approach to the UK market is something that I'm hoping to help you with during this session today. So no questions, a strange question, please feel free to use the chat box as Irma said, and let's jump straight into it if that's okay, yeah? So after the great introduction from Irma, I can move on past that slide and we'll go straight into the objectives of this call. So Irma's already framed that the UK is a significant growth opportunity for food and beverage businesses that are looking for it, looking to access it. But what I would say, it's becoming more competitive now because other countries are also realising the opportunity. Some of the political changes with the UK and the exit from Europe has made it more attractive to other businesses. So it's becoming a focus area. So what does that really mean for us to be successful? It means that we've got to be at the top of our game so that as we work towards engaging those buyers, we really deliver with impact and they understand what our offer is. Yeah, but at the same time, how do we understand which retailer we should target? Because they've all got different strategies. So some of the objectives of this call is to give you some tools and insights into how you can win as you look at the UK market, how you deliver with impact and the importance of delivering with impact. And you'd be surprised how many people do the 2-minute elevator pitch to, and they struggle to talk about their reason or their unique selling point. And that's absolutely important if we're going to engage with buyers and gain their interest so that we can progress the conversation. But also, as I touched on, the UK is a really exciting cauldron of retailers over there. They're all different, and targeting different retailers will have a different impact on your brand or a different impact on your opportunity as a contract manufacturer. So it's about how do you understand the target retailers' priorities and their goals, and how do you target those retailers that are right for your business? Because ultimately, I believe that all growth has got to be profitable growth rather than just driving volume. It's also about the importance of being confident and consistent, being prepared, because you can guarantee that the existing suppliers that are supplying the retailers with products in categories you want to enter are already ahead of you because they're prepared, they understand the categories. So we've got to play catch up, and then we've got to demonstrate that we're better. And ultimately what we're looking to do today is to help you win by giving you some of these tools from the call. Okay, so we move on. So the key things we're going to cover from an agenda perspective is to really help you understand the life of a modern category manager. Ultimately, your success in the UK, in many cases, is going to be driven by how you engage that category manager. And to be able to engage them successfully, it's really important to put yourself in their position and understand what's going through their mind and the pressures they get through their day-to-day job. So we're going to take you on some of that journey later, having done a number of years in that area myself also. So understanding your audience is absolutely critical. Understanding the retailer expectations, because as you hear me say a number of times during tonight's webinar, what we're seeing in the market now is products positioned as a solution to a customer's problem, as opposed to a product that's being pushed into the market. And there's a significant difference there, because as we understand what problem are we trying to solve, then it really aligns with the categories far quicker, because they can see how it all comes together. So changing that narrative from I've got a great product and it's great because you like it, to actually we've identified a customer need and we've got a product or product range that meets that solution. So I want to give you that lens as we move through the presentation. But also what we are seeing now is a lot more transparency across, I'd say, all of the retailers, and the ability to look at their corporate strategies and understand what role you play in delivering that is really important, because if you can help deliver their strategy, there's another reason why I need to trade with you. So, a very easy example being, if you look at responsible source chocolate, and I'm not sure whether we have a chocolate client on the call today, but if you look at responsible source chocolate and the retailer says we're going to sell all our product that's going to be responsibly sourced chocolate, that's a key requirement before you can engage with them. So it's understanding how that fits into how you fit into their strategy to improve your impact and your engagement. But I also believe that it's really important to understand the competitive landscape of the market. And for a number of years, people have felt that that's about going out buying expensive scan data, which can be a deterrent to many businesses, particularly those entrepreneur businesses that have got a great product range but are still in that high growth phase. So I'm going to talk to you about some other ways in which we help clients understand the category landscape that's done in a more cost effective way and gives you a high level of confidence with a lower level of investment, because they're tools that you can use whether you're in market yourself or whether you're using an organization such as us to provide that information for you. And also about the clarity of marketing messages. So all too often we see a number of products that have got numerous marketing messages, but when you stand at shelf, we know that consumers are making a decision almost in less than a second about what product they're going to buy. They know they're going to go to the canned goods category. They know what they're looking for. Do I buy these baked beans or those baked beans? It's a very quick decision. So being clear what your key marketing messages are and how you resonate with consumers, plant-based versus vegan versus gluten-free as an example, is really important. And it's not necessarily the same messages that resonate in each market. And then it's how you hone your product offer and how you do the pitch. So how do you bring it all together to show how you've looked at the retailer and chosen which retailer you want to engage, how you've understood their strategy to see what role you play in helping them execute or deliver that strategy, and then how do you position your business with clarity, and impact that says we can help you and we've got amazing products, and building on your legacy of being a great food producing country. It just gives you that next opportunity to compete against other countries that are looking to access this market also, because as I say, it's getting more competitive. So let's start with a top line overview of the market. So it's a population of just over 67.9 million people, of which 15% of that population were born overseas. So significant market when you look at the size of the country, high density of population, high level of international people that are now living there, but we've also got a high level of people that were born overseas. So it's very dynamic. There isn't one culture that necessarily fits all in the UK, which I think is, if you're walking the store or you're looking at the stores and you look at the growth of things such as the world food categories, in the inner city stores where I was 2 weeks ago, the range is considerable, because they've got that group of consumers now that are looking for those types of products. So, the old days of being very traditional, what the English consumer shopped and how they shopped, that's changing. And it's important to understand how that's changed and who our audience is, because you might not be picking out a particular group. So you might not be picking out all of the groups, you'd be picking out a particular group where your product resonates. So understanding that's really important. Average age just over 40 years. No great surprise there. But what's interesting is that growing age group of people over 65 continues to increase. So up by over 2% in the last 13 years. That's a trend we're seeing reflected internationally. But what's important about that is that we are seeing now people developing food products for that older population that need a higher level of nutrition because of their aging body. Food that's easier for them to chew, or food that's easier for them to absorb the nutrients. That's becoming a really important market now. And if you're in the health and wellness space, as an example, it's how do you dial it down to go toddlers, people that are in the gym a lot, and then also looking after the aged care group as an example, because they're an important part that people are now chasing. And some of the retailers are doing some very exciting work in that space as well. So, understanding your target customer, absolutely essential. Average wage, are they affluent? About 35,000 per year is where the money is at the moment, which on a global scale isn't bad. So it gives you an opportunity to start breaking it down into the next level. 5% of the employed workforce are casual, so a reasonable level of casual labour in the market there, not to be unexpected. 44% are employed and are regularly working from home, and we're beginning to see a decline. So what does that mean for us? As an example, where we're seeing food to go is definitely changing in the market now, because it's what can you take to the office versus what will you buy tonight and eat at home because you're working from home. So we're seeing those dynamics influence the market. And as you start to work through where do you want to position your product in the market, all these things are key considerations that I wouldn't say you need to dive excessively deep into, but I think it's really important to be aware of how the UK consumer is changing and ultimately which part of that population you're targeting. CPI inflation slowing down, thankfully, 7.9%. Now it's down to 4.2. Latest figure said December 2023. And interest rates around 5.25 at the moment. So there's still a lot of pressure on what will consumers spend and how much money have consumers got to spend. But having spent today around the Australian supermarkets, I would say the opportunity for the UK is that food still seems to be consistently cheaper than we're seeing in other international markets. So there's plenty of choice for consumers. So a little bit about the retail landscape, and I won't dwell on this too much because I think Irma did a great summary on that. It's a big market, and it's a big market that's going to grow even more. So why would I focus on the UK as opposed to other markets? I think, as Irma said, it's a significant market in a small landmass that if you've got the right product and you resonate with the consumers, it's good business to do. Whereas if you look at some other countries, and I just touch on Australia briefly, 2.5 times the size of Europe and a third of the population of the UK, it definitely makes sense to be targeting the UK first because you can get access to far more customers, yeah? So one thing I wanted to share here, and we talked to this with a number of clients, is people sometimes don't see the benefits of a branded strategy and a private label strategy. So as you're looking into the UK, it's thinking about what is the opportunity for your brand in that market, but also looking at the high level of private label penetration. So that's products that are owned by the retailers and produced to their standards under their name. That gives access to significant volume. So looking at it from a contract manufacturer perspective, either in isolation and says, actually, what I want to do is just contract manufacture for a retailer. How do I start that engagement and showcase my capability and my supply chain strength? Or saying, well, if I'm going to produce my brand and put my brand into the market, how do I help the retailers grow their private label strategy, which is a key part of their offer? And how do I protect the difference between my brand and their brand? So, I would encourage you to think about it from a dual perspective. What's the opportunity in the UK for your brand? And what's the opportunity for private label? And if you add the two together, does that really make it a compelling strategy for you? Because in many cases it does. Because that then then enables you to have a strategic conversation with the retailer, as opposed to what's generally a commodity focused conversation, because you become another brand in the market. So I'd really encourage you just to take a step back And if you come onto the call thinking, how do I grow my brand in the UK? Ask yourself, actually, if you go for a dual strategy, would that make you even stronger? Okay, so strong private label. The reason that retailers have a private label is because it's a strong private label that drives customer loyalty. I would say it's what gives the consumers a reason to shop with that particular retailer. This then increases the sales opportunities for the brand. So we always use a terminology about neighbours and children. So I want my neighbours' children to be healthy, but I'm a bit competitive. I want my children to do better. So if you look at it from a retailer perspective and think of private label as being their children, they want to make sure they do really well, but they also want to look after the neighbourhood's children. So if you're listed with a particular retailer, from a brand perspective, the strength of their private label is what brings the customers in, because otherwise it just becomes a price fight, which we're seeing in some international markets. So to summarize this slide, the UK grocery retail sector offers, I believe, significant growth opportunities, both for innovative brands, so for something that's different, for manufacturers that are operating to a high standard and can deliver innovation or efficiencies through a contract manufacturing for private labels. So as I say, look at it for both. And also, what might be standard in markets you supply today, that could very well be innovation in the UK market. And that's what I would term as turnkey innovation. So you haven't had to go through the development process and develop something specifically for the UK. Your researchers said, actually, this product that we've been eating traditionally in Lithuania, as an example, there's a demand for it in the UK and it would be seen as newness. So sometimes it's taking what you've already got expertise in and just offering it to a different market in the right way that can be successful. So it's all about understanding the market to see what's the most cost-effective opportunity for your business and the best way for you to catch growth. I just wanted to share a little bit about the retail landscape. So a number of retailers there, as we've talked about, significant spending power or revenue across each of them there, as you see for 22-23 generally. But also, to give you an indication that they're not all known for being the same thing. So I'm sure everyone on the call is familiar with Aldi and Lidl. That their position in the market is, wherever you see them, they're seen as being a discount retailer. That's changing at pace. But the reason they've been so successful is that they would always offer great value and be a discounter in line with the market. If you compare that to the UK and look at some of the others, you've got Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's that are very much at that premium, highly affluent area of the market, albeit Marks and Spencer's are doing some really good work now around how they change. But they would be seen as being a more premium retailer. So if you've got a more premium brand, as you go through who do you want to approach, then you want to be going for that end of the market rather than going for an Aldi or Lidl, as an example. And then you've got your middle territory, which is obviously your Tesco's, one of the biggest retailers internationally. You've got your Sainsbury's, your Asda, your Morrisons, and so forth. So each retailer is playing a similar role in feeding the UK's population, but they've got a slightly different role in the market. And I always believe you've got one opportunity to introduce your brand into a new market. And if you go in with a premium retailer, you might sell less units, but make more money per unit sold. Whereas if you go in straight away with a discounter, you'll probably turn over a lot of products, but be selling at a low margin. And when you go into your next retailer, you've already established a price in that market, which makes it very difficult for you then to elevate your brand positioning. So there's some of the key considerations that says, right back to Irma's point at the start of the call, I want to export into the UK because of the opportunity. I just encourage you to be really careful and understand which retailer do I want to engage and why, because you're sharing something with them that's really important and you want to get it across and position it in the right way. So let's talk about today's category manager, obviously one of the most important people on our focus at the moment. So in today's world and the way that the retailers are structured, the category manager really is a CEO of their category. So they're responsible for holding it all together and ultimately for the P&L performance at the end of the year. I would say in my experiences that there's generally a high expectation on them from a workload perspective, and they're generally expected to operate at about 115% capacity. So they're always thinking about the next thing, and they're always thinking about how do I move on to the next opportunity. So what you've got, so that really comes back to what we said at the beginning about you've got to focus, you've got to engage them, you've got to inspire them very quickly once you get in front of them, for them to want to spend time with you. All too often you see people pitching to a category manager, and I've been sat in those meetings being pitched to at the same time, and 5 minutes in he's thinking, if I can get out of here early, I've got time to do some stuff before my next category presentation, because this one isn't working for me. So you're trying to keep that attention, and you're trying to earn the right to have that time with them, because they understand what your offer is and they're interested. So they're operating a business unit structure, which means you've got your category manager that leads it, and then they've got all the support functions that will be around them. So maybe technical, product development, marketing, supply chain, finance, as an example. Think about how your businesses are probably structured. The category manager has got a support team around them, not dedicated to their category, but a support team there that's working across, the grocery sector, the fresh food sector, as an example, and it's got that support functions. Some of the key responsibilities are around designing the category strategy. And in many cases, they're looking at suppliers to say, far more about the category and what's happening internationally because of the strength of the resource you've got, the international travel you do, and so forth. So you're looking for what we would call category champions or category specialists to come in and be talking to the category around, this is what you've asked me to show you today. Actually, this is the opportunity. If you look at what's happening in the US, or you see what's happening in Europe, because you've got insights into far more data than they've got. But it's also then helping them align their strategy to the company objectives, because as a category manager, to succeed, you need to drive growth and you need to help deliver on shareholder commitment. So as you start to build your narrative around why you should engage with them, it's that link that says, hey, we know what's happening internationally through the categories because of our expertise. We know how we can help win in the category in the UK because we've targeted a retailer and we've seen the opportunity. And actually, we can help deliver some of the corporate objectives. It all starts to knit together very nicely, rather than you trying to sell them something that they don't really understand or don't necessarily know they want at that point, which becomes really hard. Right. So as I said, they're responsible for the overall category growth and profit and loss performance. So they will live and die based on their performance. So absolutely helping them drive incremental growth. They've got to see that commercial advantage. As I said, they'll be time poor and data driven. So you've got to be really clear on how you help make their day easier and how you help identify the product opportunities for them. And they'll be responsible in many cases for the branded opportunities and private label. So they will be balancing where they need to grow their private label offer because that resonates with customers and in most cases drive value. But at the same time, how do they have a branded strategy that's going to bring something different into the category and to drive some premiumization? And then they'll also be responsible for the contracts, the pricing, customer issues, supply issues, store issues. So, there will be that whole coordination of how they bring you on board as a supplier, how they set you up with trading terms. But at the same time, if a store hasn't got a pallet of product, they'll also be responsible for making sure that's handled through suppliers. So really intense, and very, very fluid in what they're doing. And there'll be a very high expectation of them managing the team that's supporting them, but also managing up through their business as well. So a lot of their pull will be on internal shareholder engagement. So again, it's part of the reason that you're fighting for time. But on a really positive note, what they're looking for is a supplier to come in with a great product that's going to help grow their category, that they can feed back through the business to say, I found something here that's innovative. I found access to new capability, that's going to help me differentiate my category. And I've got someone here that ideally is going to do some private label product for me also. So, they're looking for those pieces of magic. The challenge that we face is being able to get our piece of magic in front of them because of the challenges that I've outlined on the slide. So a challenge, but I think a really positive opportunity. Yeah. So I thought if I broke it down into an example of what a day could look like for a UK category manager, that might just help visualize what we've talked about on the slide. So in store recently, looking at olive oil, 44 products within the wider category, 11 brands. So that category manager will be managing olive oil plus other things in the area, other products in the area, not just olive oil. So he's got 44 products he's got to look after and make sure they're all performing, they're all where they need to be, they're all making the right profit for him or her, and they've got the right marketing campaign. So 44 different units to look at across the offer, 11 brands. So he's got to engage with 11 brands around supply chain performance, quality performance, trading terms, marketing activity, so on and so forth. If you break that down and say 1 hour per product per week and 1 hour per supplier per week, that's nearly 2 days out of his working week that's already gone just managing what's there today for part of his category. And that, you know, and he's also like to be managing dressing seasonings as part of that wider category. So I just wanted to help illustrate that the pressure they're under, which means that we've got to do an amazing job to get in front of them. And once we get in front of them, if we can deliver with clarity and impact, then we can help make their life easier, because ultimately that's where I believe success comes. So it's about growing the category with purpose. So it's about learning that magic formula. So it's about buying more, for more frequently, which ultimately enables them to increase category growth. So that's where they're trying to take the consumer on the journey, that the consumer will increase the amount of times they purchase these products. They're willing to pay more because there's innovation in the category. They're using more, and ultimately you increase in top line sales, which is going to drive profitability. It isn't necessarily about selling more units. That's not the key success measure in retail, but top line sales at a category level is what you live or die by. So that's the key thing, is how do I sell more for more, or how do I sell the same for more? So we talk quite a lot about category management and, you know, the functions that they cover and what a day looks like in their world. So now what I wanted to do is come from a slightly different angle and talk about the importance of understanding our target consumer. So as I've talked a little bit about on the call already, it's very much around talking about a product placement that addresses a consumer problem or challenge, rather than just a great tasting product you're trying to push in the market. If we can build the narrative that way, then you get the pull effect, where the retailer wants it because he can see the end need, or they can see the end need, I should say, as opposed to trying to push something in that people aren't convinced on. Then it becomes a very hard sell. Sometimes it works, but it's a lot harder in today's market. So understanding who your target consumer is, yeah, and having that connectivity enables you to demonstrate to the category manager the problem that we're trying to solve. So that category insights, understanding customer needs, understanding our target customer, and our target customer isn't everyone that shops at Tesco's. You'd be amazed at some clients that think, well, if that person shops at Tesco's, they're all my customers. No, some customers never walk down the health food aisle. So it's about getting deeper into that. It's about showcasing how your product or products will resonate with consumers. As I said, not all shoppers are going to be our target customers. It's our ability to demonstrate our knowledge and expertise around the category. So what do we know about the UK market with that particular retailer? And how do we then create higher impact by demonstrating some of the things we've seen from international markets? This is an opportunity then for us to build confidence and credibility, because we're showcasing that understanding of the category, and it should align us then for profitable growth. And if we can create all of this with impact, because we're talking about the things that are important to the UK market and the category manager, we're far more likely to get to that second meeting and move us towards that commercial outcome that we're chasing, rather than a great conversation that we don't get to engage with them anymore. Because this is what your competitors will be doing in other markets. So I think it's really important that we understand the benchmark is rising. It's nothing to be daunted by, but it's around using the tools that are being offered to make sure we're as well prepared as we can be and set you up for success. So some of the general expectations of new suppliers here. So the retailers will give you some credit because you're potentially a new supplier. But as I've said, you're also competing against existing suppliers. So you need to be top of your game. So preparedness, professional, demonstrating category knowledge, that's really important to win the hearts and minds of the category manager. Product placement, we've talked about that at length, and I'll probably talk about it a bit more through this call, because I think that's absolutely critical to success. Understanding the category pricing structure, so you can be really clear where your brand sits on that pricing hierarchy. So you'll position your brand where it makes sense for you as a business, but also where it's expected to fit from a customer perspective. So understand what the competitive landscape is. How are they pricing? How are their unit sizes? Are they charging per unit, per 100 ml, per 100 grams, and so forth? and how do you fit in there? Because that's what the category manager will be trying to take in very quickly. You've got a fantastic olive oil. Where does it fit in against my portfolio of products? How's your pricing architecture? Are you going to be too high? Are you going to be too low? They'd expect you to at least to be able to come in and expect you to come in and lead the direction in this conversation, rather than I've got a great olive oil here, it needs to be £5, will you take it? You've got to be able to demonstrate why you should be there, both on quality call outs, your unique selling point, but also pricing. It continues to surprise me how many clients talk about they want to list a product into Tesco's or Sainsbury's without realizing the scale of that business, and then realizing they haven't got the capability to produce the volume that's needed or the finance to carry enough stock that's needed to supply a retailer such as that. So as you start to understand the market, it's really important to work out what would the appreciation of volume be if I put 2 cases into every store to start with, and then the expectation for the DCs to hold 4 cases of product for each store. That's probably 2 weeks coverage, and then me holding 4 weeks worth of coverage as a supplier, so that I've got consistent product in that pipeline prior to launching, and once the product's live in market. Some people will say, actually, I need to choose a smaller retailer or a specialist retailer because that fits better with my business structure and it's not going to put me under undue financial pressure. So it's about understanding some of that at the top line, that if you're a really exciting small business with a great product, you probably want to go for a retailer that's got less stores, because it will fit with your business model, rather than going for the big engine of Tesco's and then you get an order and you go, I've got no idea how I'm going to get this through my factory, through my supply chain, and whether I can finance it. So they're all key considerations, so you don't overpromise and underdeliver. Because getting a product listed with a retailer is just a start of an exciting journey. It's not the pinnacle of the journey. So account management structure, how are you going to support it? You're going to have a team or representative in the UK. You're going to manage it remotely. These are things that category managers will expect you to have thought of before you go in and engage with them, rather than them telling you, well, this is what we want you to do. So you've got to understand that end-to-end piece about, if I'm successful with this retailer, how does it fit for my business? Margin aspirations, so understanding what the category average is likely to look like, and how do you then position your product within that, so you're offering the category manager something that's equivalent to the category, or ideally margin accretive. The ability to put samples into the UK, so that the best thing you can do is get the buyer to try your product, so you've got them excited because of the impact to your presentation. If you really believe in your food or beverage product, the sooner you can get a category manager to try it is really important, because it's a taste that wins people's minds as well. But also, some retailers are operating different requirements at a store level, particularly around things such as outer case packaging, where some want it to be in set dimensions, so you have a set amount of product on shelf. And in many cases, suppliers have had to invest in that technology to be able to pack that format. Not all retailers are asking for it, but it should be part of your groundwork, so you don't go in and get really close to winning business and then realize you need to invest in a new packing kit because you haven't got the boxing capability. So again, it's about preparedness. It's about understanding of the market, so that as you go in, you're not going to get tripped up on something there that you should know and would know in markets that you're well established in, because all markets and retailers are slightly different. So I should move on a bit here, just conscious of time, and we want to get to the questions. But how retailer strategies are influencing growth. Ultimately, each retailer now is making a series of commitments in a corporate strategy that's given to their shareholders and the consumers. Yeah, and it really is influencing now how they choose their suppliers, because what's become more important now is I need suppliers that can help me deliver my overall objective. So if a retailer says all my private label packaging is going to be sustainable by the end of next year, if you're contract manufacturing, or if you're trying to contract manufacture for them and you haven't got sustainable packaging, or you can't run it through your process, I'm not going to bring you on board as a supplier, because you're not going to help me deliver my overall commitments. If somebody is doing higher welfare poultry, as an example, and there's a lot of that in the UK now for different reasons, but if someone's doing higher welfare poultry and you offer them normal poultry into their private label products, they're not going to do it because they can't go back on public commitments. Not so restrictive currently on the branded strategy. But for those of you on the call, and I know there's a number of you that are looking at contract manufacturing, understanding the retailer strategies are absolutely key. what I would say is those of you that decide to look at Tesco's are doing some, I would say, world-class work around reducing packaging, which is has also influenced the brands that they're having at retail. So if you're a brand and you go into Tesco's, I think it's fair to say there will be a high expectation that you're focused on reducing packaging in the same way they are across private label. Whereas if you go into another retailer, it's potentially seen as being your brand, you do what you like, and we'll make sure that we're okay from a private label perspective. So understanding that creates an opportunity if you've got something great with your packaging, because again, you're starting to align with the strategy. Or if you can't do it for whatever reason, it's a key consideration to say, well, really, if it's important to that retailer, do we really want to be trying to engage with them if our chances of success are not going to be as strong as we want? Yeah. So we talked at the beginning about the importance of insights, and hopefully that message has been consistent through the conversation so far. Many people will traditionally go to the scan data, which at times can be very expensive and can in some cases be hard to get to. But I think what's really important is if that's not the option for your business, it's about understanding what does it look like in store. So here's some pictures from Tesco's a couple of weeks ago. Again, one of the oil categories. From it very quickly, you can understand what's the pricing hierarchy, what's the level of promotion. Is it a very high level promotion category? And what's the shelf presence? So the more product of a particular brand on the shelf, the more sales velocity that product's got, because it enables the retailers to do less replenishment. What's the key responsible sourcing commitments that are being there? How's the category communicating to customers? This was a very, very clean category. If I gave you, a picture of this in Australia, 60% of it would be on promotional activity. Yeah, so this is a very clean example of a retailer that knows exactly how the category should be. It's got their pricing architecture and their range very clear for customers. And they don't need to spend lots of time, changing labels and so on and so forth, because there's a compelling range. So using somebody such as, I guess, the services that we offer is about putting people in store to say, if we're looking at a particular category, let's give you the insights through what the consumers are actually seeing in store and what the category manager is executing at a store level, rather than buying a report that says, the most popular selling olive oil is this one because it sells X amount of units. So you can do it in different ways. But this replicates you spending time in store, actually walking the store and seeing how the retailers are selling your product, offering it to consumers, but also who you're competing against, the strength of private label, the strength of the brands. What's the premium offer? Is organic important? What's the Aldi price match? Right at the bottom there, the little red sticker that you hopefully can see there. That's the Aldi price match, where the retailers are now carrying a product that says, this product here, similar quality to Aldi, and it's the same price as Aldi. So again, it's understanding all of that, because you might have a product that's great quality and great value that plays a role in the Aldi price match. You don't necessarily have to be successful with a premium organic product in this space. It's just understanding where your offer fits with the market, so that how you can make profitable business. Yeah. So we talked through this, the key call outs, value proposition. What's in the center of the shelf is where the customer's eye goes first. There's lots of data that supports that. That's really where you want to be. That's where the main traffic is. Bottom left is going to be the value offer generally for consumers, and top right is going to be the premium product. So you look at it very quickly, and I was in store with a client today. You very quickly understand the category by product placement and see what the customer dynamics are and what's growing and so forth. So it's how do you have those tools so that before you engage with a buyer, you're understanding who you're competing against. So you're very clear why you're different and why you're better, because as a category manager, I need to understand that to list your product. Marketing claims, we've talked about the difference between what's on the front of pack versus what's on the back of pack. Gluten-free and vegans, very hot in a number of international markets that we're represented in at the moment. It continues to surprise me by how many clients put gluten-free on the back of a product rather than putting it on the front, or put vegan on the back rather than the front. Because if you look at a shelf space such as this, if you're looking to buy a drink, you're not going to pick up everything and turn it around. You're just looking at flavor, price, and you're going to make a decision. So if you've got gluten-free on the back, or if you've got vegan on the back, unless you're particularly searching for a vegan product, you're not going to pick up everything. And if you've got to pick it up to turn it around to see which one's vegan, the chances are people have done a better job and have labelled vegan on the front. They're going to be the ones you go to because you want to be in and out the supermarkets. We're definitely seeing that customer habit change. Supermarkets are, unless you're a food consultant, and not a place that you linger. They're a place that you want to be in and out very quickly. It's not a social experience anymore. So how quickly, I want that drink, I want something that's vegan, or I want something that's high protein. You've got to be understanding what's the important messages in that category, in that country, and how do I make sure that's what I'm calling out? Not losing the other messages, but deciding what goes on the front, because that's the thing that's going to drive the purchase intent, versus what do I need to put on the back, because for that consumer that's really interested in my brand, I want them to know that I'm carbon neutral. I want them to know it's sustainable packaging, or it's responsibly sourced, and so forth. It's also, as you build your strategy, it's also the other question I'd like to raise is, how do you serve the market and how do you grow? So we've touched a little bit on supply chain, but I would say generally there's two main approaches, and it's about having that definition so you're really clear what it looks like. Are you going to supply the market through an agent? And in my terminology, my experience, an agent is an extension of your team, which means that you own that product all the way through to the retailer. You've got the supplier number, you get the order from the retailer, and the retailer pays you. You get access then to their strategy, you get access then to their supplier days, you're seen as a supplier to them, you're getting a lot more information about how your product is performing. And I believe, again, in my experience, that you've got a tighter value chain. So you have somebody in the country that's maybe full-time or part-time, they use your email account when they're talking to your chosen retailer, they're only talking about your product, yeah, and they're focused on growing your business. So that's one model there where you have an agent, okay, and some of the benefits. Whereas I think the other market that we talk about is a distributor, and generally, you know, in my experience, a distributor is someone you'll sell your product to at a wholesale price, so you're making less margin. They will manage the retailer relationships. They will get access to the data before you do. It's a lower volume model. It works well in a lower volume supply chain. It gives a multiple customer strategy, but it's less profitable for you, and it gives you less visibility of what the customer is doing in that category. So in some cases, the first time you know your product isn't performing is where the distributors phoned you and said, hey, Tesco's are delisting you because you're not selling enough. Well, under the agent model, you're getting great visibility of how your product's performing, so you can continue to grow your business. Different models fit different businesses. I would say there's not one size that fits all, but I would really encourage you, before you look to engage a UK retailer, if you haven't got a supply chain structure in the UK, to understand which one fits your growth strategy and which one works well for the UK. And there will be some specialists that are great agents with some retailers in some categories, and there'll be some distributors that do a fantastic job of supplying certain products into certain retailers also. So again, it isn't one size fits all. It's been very clear, what does your wish list look like, so you can target the right people. And again, that does a lot of work we do in that space to try and align the right suppliers with the right supply chain function to help them grow with the right retailer. So in summary, yeah, I'd encourage you to research, really understand your market, and hopefully some of the ways that we've talked about on this call show you how you can do that in a cost-effective, real-time way. Invest in understanding your audience, so in this case your category manager, and really try and understand what's their priorities. Yeah. Invest in understanding both the market and the competition. If you think that someone in your business is going to, land at Heathrow, go in and see Tesco's and pitch a product and be successful, I think those days are significantly behind us now. Establish your range as a solution to an issue, so you're solving a customer problem, as opposed to necessarily leading with a new brand that's got something that's really innovative, because the rate of success in that has dropped incredibly. Understand your audience, we've talked about, but we've also talked about understanding your ultimate customer. So that's the consumer. So make that link between what's important to the category manager and what's important to my target consumer. Make sure you're really clear how that comes together, but also the difference between the two. And define your supply chain strategy based on your target market. Because if you want to go into, say, the independent sector, and I know we haven't talked much about, the farm shop sector in the UK, if you're doing that, something like that wants a distribution model, and that's a whole different focus, and it's a different market. Whereas if you want to go into a mainstream retailer, then you need a different market. So understanding who you want to target to be successful in that market, and then working all the way back helps you deliver what we talked about at the beginning of the session around delivering with impact, positioning your product as a solution to a problem, and ultimately helping you deliver commercial growth for your business rather than selling product into a market at a loss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Mark, for such an amazing and important information you've shared. And now I would like to switch into a Q&A session. And of course, I would like to ask everyone, maybe someone has questions on the spot. Not yet, but actually we've received a few questions. Well, actually not a few questions, but a lot of questions beforehand. And most of them were covered during the presentation. But I would like to announce a few more. So dear Mark, what is the most important to UK retailers? Is it the uniqueness of the product, the nutrition value, or the price? What would be your opinion?
I don't think it's price.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's price, because I think price is part of overall success. But I think it's your first 2 points there, Irma. It's around innovation, and having just spent the last 6 weeks or so in the UK, the level of innovation in that market continues to be impressive, and that's for lots of reasons. But they're looking for innovation because ultimately their customers are looking for innovation. Mm-hmm. So you want to be going. You can go in with something that's a commodity product and be successful, provided you've got the sustainability story, you've got the right price, because it's only a commodity. Yeah, so if it's a value butter as an example, or a value ice cream where it doesn't matter where it's been produced, depending on retailer, that becomes purely a pricing conversation and a volume conversation. But if you're looking to produce something into the market there that's new, innovation is absolutely important, because the UK that's where the market is. It's what consumers expect. But also what's really interesting now is the growth in, particularly if you look at the new ranges that launched across most of the retailers in January. So traditionally in the UK and other markets, you get to January, people have overindulged over Christmas. So January, you're looking at, focused on health, focused on wellness and so forth. So we saw a lot of health products come to the market, of which there was a lot of call outs of high protein. So I think, the long answer to your question is something that's innovative would appeal to me as a buyer. If you've got something that's innovative and high protein, then that doubly appeals for me. Not quite the right expression, but you understand what I mean. So you're getting 2 out of 3, because that's where the market's going. Whereas if you've got something that's just innovative, you've got to convince me that it links back to a customer. Yeah, it was only last week that Iceland launched, the discounter in the UK, launched a high protein milk. And if you think about all the other foods that are high protein, the ability to make milk a higher source of protein, when consumers are looking for health and wellness, it came out at a similar price point to a normal 2 litres of milk. You can help make all your consumers healthier for a high protein milk, because it's affordable and it's your cereal, it's your coffee and so forth. And it's cheaper than buying the whey powder when you've been to the gym. So that type of understand the trend, bring it back into an everyday product. The same as reducing salt and sugar and different types of fats across some food at the moment really fits in with that corporate strategy. But it also comes back to your question there around nutrition.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. In your presentation you mentioned about the price segmentation, actually, but is it possible to indicate how many price segments are in the UK food market, or we cannot have like the one rule?
Well, we always used to talk about having good, better and best. So good was your cheap product, like your value product. Better was your everyday product, and then best product was your premium offer. And there was a different margin expectation for that. Each product played a different role in the category strategy and appealed to different customers on the journey. I'd say that's evolved a bit now, in that there's some categories where retailers have only got 1 or 2 products because it's clearer for customers. And we've also seen, the growth of organic, the growth of finest, the growth of ultimate, which is a really fun category. in food, or even the growth of ultra in home care products. So the retailers have drifted a bit from a good, better, best strategy, and they've seen it as an opportunity to have a bit more fun, drive a bit more interest into the categories. But generally, I think if you stand at a category and you go, okay, where's the cheap product, so the good product, where's the everyday product, the better product, and where's the premium product, that's the better product, that's a pretty consistent approach.
Okay, thanks a lot. Just a practical insights, what would be your opinion, how to catch your first buyer in the United Kingdom? Is it possible to make it via email, or contacting via LinkedIn, or none of the ways?
No, I think that's a really good question, because I've seen each of those work successfully. I think LinkedIn is becoming more impactful for many people. If a buyer's on LinkedIn and they haven't put their work email on there, then I wouldn't suggest sending something to their private email. So they're on LinkedIn, they've got their private email. It's probably because they're looking at their career rather than how do they meet new buyers. But connecting with them on LinkedIn is always a good first step for sure. So I would say, that enables you to understand who's the right buyer for the category, how do you connect with them, and then you can gauge how much they want to engage via LinkedIn. And in some cases, what success looks like is they engage and they say, hey, let's flip this conversation over to my work email, and then you're in for that conversation. So I'd encourage people to look at that, but I'd also say you've got to be really ready that your messaging is going to be very clear, in the same way as if you're sat in front of them, you've got to be consistent through LinkedIn. So I think that's one. I think the second one there, sorry, the second part of the question, Irma, I've just gone blank. Remind me on the second part of the question, please.
What would be the best way, via LinkedIn or the emails? Well,
and I think with emails, we've all got used to working remotely. I think there's generally been less meetings with suppliers and retailers than there has, because the buyers are either working remotely a couple of days a week, or they found that having less people and doing more by email has given them some time back. What we are seeing in some markets, which is a real challenge, is the retailers working towards a more data-driven process. So if you want to email into this particular retailer, you go into a portal. You're not talking to the category manager, because our process is all the new suppliers go into this portal. It gets sorted out by somebody or by AI, and it might reach the category manager. I think that's really challenging, because you've got to get through people that don't know the category or the product to have impact. I think if you find out who the category manager is and you approach them directly, some of the stuff that we do with clients is about helping them to engage in through email in a professional manner, which goes down to when should you send it. If you send it on a Monday, so you send it on a Monday because you've been thinking about it all weekend. It's the first thing you do Monday morning. The first thing a category manager is looking at for most of Monday is how they traded last week and how they're going to trade this week, which means that your email has gone from the top of their box at 7 o'clock in the morning to the bottom of their box, and they might not see it for the rest of the week, or you might get missed. So you're far better to send it Tuesday or Wednesday as an example, where they're focused on growing the category, not focused on the trading update, before they get into Friday and they're just focused on, have I got enough stock for the weekend? So timing is absolutely critical. Do you do proof of delivery, proof of receipt, so you make sure you've got the right email address? When do you follow up? But also, how do you deliver a very distinct message that means as a buyer, I see the product coming in, I read the first paragraph and I want to read the rest and I want to respond to you, rather than sending me a product list, company presentation, a pricing list. There's 4 attachments, and it just takes too long for me to read, because I'm already really focused on working with the suppliers I have got. So you can be successful for email, but I think you've got to understand the techniques and the tips that if that works for you, to do that in the best way.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if you can get in front of a buyer with the right products, they want to meet you because they're looking for something different. But what you've got to do is push your way through that crowd of people that are fighting for the same time with that category manager, so they get to meet you and understand the great products you've got. They're definitely not unapproachable, but you've just got to fight to get to the front. And when you get to the front, you've got to be able to deliver a very distinct message around how you're going to help them.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Very good tips and tricks from your side. And the other question was, what are the largest trade differences, positive or negative, between pre-Brexit and now?
Oh,
tough question.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think it depends how you look at it. I think from a UK perspective, if you're looking at it from a competitive position, yeah, UK suppliers that were supplying into Europe, it's now becoming very, very difficult for them. Well, it's still becoming very difficult for them to supply into Europe. So that's putting pressure on their businesses, which, I think is probably a pressure that you wouldn't experience as a Lithuanian supplier. So I think that's an advantage for you. I think complexity around labeling, as you're pushing product into the UK, is becoming a bit more challenging. There was an article I read very recently about a UK-based business that was doing detergents and had been doing detergents for years. The product validation that they had to supply into Europe is no longer accepted into the UK. So they've got to go through that validation process. So I would always encourage you to look at labeling compliance, permitted ingredients, and level of permitted ingredients, because you can have an ingredient in there that's only permitted at a certain level, where in other markets is permitted at a different level. So that regulatory compliance perspective is absolutely important. But again, it's very achievable, but it's very important as well. And we have partners that support clients in that space, and there are others that do that. But that regulatory compliance is an important part to do as you go on that journey. But thankfully, the UK is far simpler to export into than maybe the Australian market. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. The other question was how to get the attention of the supermarkets. What's the traditional way up to them? They all seem to have a supplier portals. However, it is super hard to deliver proper pitch through them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It is, and I think that's been delivered. That's been designed to reduce the time it takes to spend with lots of suppliers and try and filter out the suppliers. I actually think what you're doing to help Lithuanian businesses around preparation, around attendance at trade shows at times in market, is currently where the future is. There are some people that believe we will move towards a virtual shop environment where the younger buyers will just go online and look at your virtual shop, but you've still got to reach them in the first place. But I think at the moment, time in country, time at trade shows, whether you're exhibiting or whether you're walking the show, because with name badges now you can walk the show, you keep your eyes out and you see, oh, there's a buyer of Waitrose. You can easily just say, hi, nice to meet you, swap a card, because they're there because they're looking for newness. Now, 99% of their focus is going to be on exhibitors, but they're there because they're looking for newness. And I think being around those shows or saying to a buyer, hey, we're at the show, is there any chance we could meet up? Even a coffee, etc. They're things that are far easier and far more within reach than trying to get an appointment at them to see them when they know nothing about you. It is doable, but I think, it's using what's within our reach very quickly with the view of, you have that first conversation and they invite you in to present your product and showcase your product and understand more about your business. Yeah. So if you play it back, you've got to be really clear as a food business. You bump into a buyer at the trade show and go, hi, I'm Mark, and here's a 30-second pitch around what I'm trying to sell and why my business is great. And so many CEOs, struggle with that. And then you talk to their marketing director and it's slightly different and they don't get it across. And you just got to know that off pat. It's almost like a first date. You just got to be there. Yeah. Because there's opportunities coming. And if you kick yourself afterwards that you didn't tell him this or you didn't tell them that about your business, first impressions count. And in a highly competitive landscape, you've got to be very clear. I'm the best ice cream supplier because of, I'm an award-winning ice cream supplier because of, yeah, love to come and talk to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mark, a lot. Yeah. That's good advice for every one of us. Maybe someone has questions that would like to ask them now. No questions at this moment. So actually, I want to thank you a lot, dear Mark, for the presentation and for sharing your knowledge. That was very important to Lithuanian exporters and producers that are eager to become a part of UK market. And so since there are no more questions and our webinar is running out of time, I want to thank to everyone that has spent valuable time on the knowledge. And all the news about our upcoming events you can find at the new Litfood webpage, expert.litfood.lt or on our LinkedIn accounts. And I wish everyone a productive day and see you in our upcoming events. Thanks a lot, Denmark.
Fantastic. Thank you, Irma. Thank you very much.